This is Steve Robbins. Welcome to the Get It Done Guys, quick and dirty tips to work less and do more. Are you taking enough risks? Today's episode on decision-making under uncertainty may be the most important episode I've ever written. It gets a bit technical, but it's worth taking the time to understand this. Master this technique and it can change the course of your life for the better, forever. One of my favorite classes in business school was entrepreneurship. The professor asked us on the last day of class, are you taking enough risks? Playing it too safe is a guaranteed way to get nowhere in life. I've thought about that question a lot during my career, and my answer is pretty much always no. But I've never known which risks to take and which risks would be, well, a bit too risky. I can pinpoint 4 decisions in my life that were the wrong decision. The very, very wrong decisions. And yet no matter how many times I've reviewed them, given the information that available at the time, I would do the same thing. Luck played a big factor in the actual outcome, and there was no obvious way to account for that in the decision-making process. Or no obvious way until now. Recently, Billy Murphy of ForeverJobless.com and the Forever Jobless podcast came into my life. A 29-year-old former professional poker player turned entrepreneur, Billy wrote an article that gave me the missing piece. In one reading, he changed how I think about decision-making forever. I've recorded an interview with Billy that you can listen to at getitdoneguy.com/Billy Murphy. The tool that he presents is something that I learned in my first semester in business school in the module on decision-making under uncertainty, way back before I made those sucky, uncertain decisions. But business school never taught me when and how to use the tool. They just presented it as an isolated technique. It's called expected value. And now that I understand how to use it, I wish I could replay the last 20 years of my life. In all 4 of my bad decisions, expected value is the missing piece that would have led me to make what ultimately would have been better decisions. Cost-benefit analysis doesn't work well. We're trained to evaluate a decision by looking at the costs and the benefits, or maybe we do a worst case, expected case, and best case scenario. Either way, we compare outcomes and we choose what feels like the best path. But this is a poor way to make decisions. First of all, we put far more emotional weight on avoiding loss than we do on gaining benefits, so we let the worst case overwhelm our thinking. And then there's luck. Not all outcomes, costs, benefits, and cases are equally probable. Luck plays a big role, and humans are horrible at reasoning about luck. Expected value gives us a way to include the missing piece, which is the probability of each alternative in our decision-making. The expected value of a decision is the decision's outcome multiplied by the probability of that decision. For example, imagine that you have a rigged coin that flips heads 30% of the time and tails 70% of the time. If it comes up heads, you get $100. If it comes up tails, you get nothing. The expected value of one coin flip is 30% times $100, or $30. If you take this bet 100 times in a row, over time, you'll make about $3,000, which is roughly $30 per toss. That's the 30% probability times the $100 payoff. Both outcomes can have payoffs attached. Let's change the game a bit. If heads pays $100 and tails pays $20, then the expected value is $100 times 30% probability plus $20 times 70% probability. That's $100 times 30% probability, which is $30, plus $20 times 70% probability, which is $14. $30 plus $14 is $44. So under these terms, if you took the bet 100 times, you'd make around $4,400, or roughly $44 per toss. The expected value of a decision is the sum of all of the possible outcomes, with each outcome being multiplied by the probability of that outcome coming to pass. Make positive expected value decisions. On the surface, it may seem like expected value only applies to cases where you get to make the same decision over and over, where you get to flip the coin 100 times. So if you can flip the coin 100 times, then it makes sense to think in terms of expected value. But if you can only flip it once, you'll make either $100 or $20. You won't make $44. So expected value isn't much use there, right? Wrong. And this is the missing piece that Billy Murphy pointed out. If you consistently calculate the expected value of every decision you make, any individual decision may work out or may not, and that's important to realize. Any individual decision may be a failure, but If you always decide to pursue options that have a positive expected value, over time, luck will work in your favor enough that you get some real payouts. Do I stay or do I go? I've had coaching clients work with me on whether they should quit their job to start their own company. Should they leave a guaranteed $80,000 a year job to start something entrepreneurial? Well, let's look at the expected value calculation. A ballpark estimate is that starting their own company might give them a 10% chance of eventually making $500,000 a year, a 40% chance of making $100,000 a year, and a 50% chance of going bankrupt and making nothing. Personally, the 50% bankruptcy possibility would probably scare me into staying. But wait. The expected value of staying at the current job is 100% times $80,000 a year, or $80,000. The expected value of my client starting their own company is 10% times $500,000, plus 40% times $100,000, plus 50% times $0. That's $50,000 plus $40,000 plus $0, or $90,000 expected value compared to the $80,000 expected value for staying. The highest expected value choice is for my client to quit and start his own company, even though the risk of failure of this particular decision is 50%. Now, just for the record, he made over $100 million in his first 5 years and is probably going to be a billionaire by the time he's 50, and I charged him hourly. Big mistake on my part. And that's where expected value makes the difference. It encourages taking calculated risks when the payoff is high enough and probable enough to make sense. A lifetime of positive expected value choices leads to more rolls of the dice and enough big wins to offset the losses. When you're faced with financial choice, or any kind of choice really, don't just think worst case, best case. Estimate probabilities and calculate the expected value of the decision. Pursue choices with the highest expected value. You'll have plenty of losses and plenty of wins, but consistent positive expected value decision-making will eventually pay off. In part 2 of this episode, we will delve into expected value in more detail and consider things like how to account for costs. This is Steve Robbins. Follow Get It Done Guy on Twitter and Facebook, and remember to check out the interview with Billy Murphy at getitdoneguy.com/Billy Murphy. I help high achievers accelerate or change their careers. If you want to know more, visit steverobbins.com. That's SteverRobbins.com. Work less, do more, and have a great life.